it's Jack from Cultaholic.com. Peel yourselves away from your grubby little PS5s because it's time to talk, very briefly, then you can get back to it. It's time to talk about some wrestling news. There's been a news video earlier on today. This is the second news video. Here we go. There are lots of juicy headlines to talk about, so let's get into them right now. First of all, for the first time ever, PWI have revealed their top 10 tag teams. Next up, we saw two very surprising cameos on AEW Dynamite last night. And finally, former WWE Superstar Zelina Vega has held talks regarding unionization. Very interesting stuff. So first of all, PWI have indeed revealed their top 10 tag teams for the first ever time. This is part of the inaugural PWI Tag Team 50 list, and the top 10 have been made public. So I'll just run them down from 10 down to 1. One glaring omission though, from what I can see. So at number 10 we have Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo, and remember the evaluation period does not run through all of 2020 or whatever. It goes from October the 1st, 2019 to September 30th, 2020. So Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo, little bit of a strange one maybe because New Japan hasn't been able to have the most active year around, I guess, but you know, they're in at number 10. And number 9, the Kabuki Warriors, Kairi Sane and Asuka. Obviously now Kairi Sane's gone, so they're not a tag team anymore. Number 8, the New Day. Of course, Big E is now on a separate brand to Kofi and Xavier Woods, but you know, it's the New Day, you can't argue too much. Number 7, the Lucha Bros, Ray Phoenix and Penta El Zero M, or Zero Miedo, over on AEW doing good things. Number 6, the Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. Again, now obviously I love the Guerrillas of Destiny, but not the most active year in New Japan, so bit of a strange one maybe there. Number 5, the Street Profits. Of course, they're the current SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Number 4, the North over at Impact Wrestling. I suspect a popular pick with many. The North are very, very good. Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. A very aggressive, old-school, amateur-style tag team, just running through people. Number 3, the Golden Role Models, Bayley and Sasha Banks. You cannot argue with the success that they had until, of course, they broke up, and now Sasha and Bayley are feuding, or maybe the feud's over, but Bayley did come out and interrupt Sasha on this most recent edition of SmackDown, so maybe it's still going on. Number 2, the former AEW Tag Team Champions, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Excellent. I would maybe have even put them in at number 1. I thought they had an amazing feud with the Young Bucks and just amazing matches with pretty much every other tag team in the division, from SCU to the Lucha Bros to the Bucks to even a good one against FTR, which kind of fell short of the mark slightly. But the fact is, the hype for that match was so high that I can sort of understand. So Omega and Hangman would probably have actually been number 1 this year for me, but number 1 instead went to Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, FTR. You might have noticed immediately there, no Young Bucks in the top 10. So yeah, no Young Bucks, very, very strange there, because, I mean, even though their tag team victory came after the evaluation period had ended, they were still putting on very good matches on a regular basis on AEW TV. More than you could argue maybe the New Japan tag teams like Roppongi 3K and the GOD. On the other side of things, yes, you know, the PWI rankings are often influenced by kayfabe factors as much as real factors like match quality. So the fact that the Bucks didn't win the titles before the evaluation period ended, I guess maybe has a factor in there, but you'd still put them in the top 10, surely. Anyway, I mean, whatever, that's PWI's opinion. Again, I would have put Hangman and Omega at number 1 for this past year and FTR in at number 2. But, you know, FTR are a brilliant tag team anyway, and I guess putting them at number 1 maybe makes more headlines, I suppose. I would still have gone for Hangman and Omega, but let me know what you think of this inaugural PWI Tag Team Top 10. There is the full 50 out there as well, but obviously PWI want people to buy it, so they only release the top 10. Next up, let's go to NXT, because last night they announced the return, do my best William Regal voice, of War Games! How does he do that? I know it's once a year, but I've just done myself some damage there. So obviously, there's no takeover in place for Survivor Series this weekend or for the Saturday before Survivor Series. It's not a big 4 pay-per-view weekend with a takeover, then the main show. It's just the main show. So a lot of people are thinking, when's this going to happen then? Has War Games been scrapped? Obviously, War Games has traditionally, in the past few years, taken place around Survivor Series. Well, it seems like it's only been delayed slightly, and it's going to get a little weekend all to itself. That's because during last night's edition of NXT, Shotzi Blackheart announced the next takeover event. NXT TakeOver War Games is scheduled to take place on December 6th. This was kind of built around the feud between Candice LeRae and Shotzi Blackheart, because in a vignette, Shotzi told Candice to find an army because they are going to war, and then WWE put out a tweet pushing the return of War Games straight after the video was broadcast. So you can suspect that one of the War Games matches is going to be Team Shotzi versus Team Candice. And I suspect that the heel team there is going to be probably Candice, Indy Hartwell, Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, who've all kind of been affiliated with each other recently, taking on Shotzi's team, which I suspect is going to also have like Ember Moon, Toni Storm, those sort of characters, maybe even Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley. So I'm trying to think of a fifth heel who could maybe join the heel team if they do 5-on-5. Either way, that looks set to be a very strong lineup. And then on the men's side of things, it looks like we're going to have the Undisputed Era, Fish, O'Reilly, Cole and Strong against Pat McAfee's stable of maybe himself, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch and Pete Dunne. It looks like that's going to be the case. Maybe if the heel team bring in a ringer of some sort, they can match up 5-on-5 against the babyface team of the Undisputed Era and Finn Balor, maybe, who was in the ring when they came back and sort of announced them as his backup. Maybe they'll just do 4-on-4 though, and we'll just see the 4 members of the Undisputed Era, not Balor. He might just defend his title on the show or something like that, taking on McAfee, Lorcan, Burch and Dunne. And I think that's a very exciting pair of matches there. I can see it going pretty well. I can see McAfee doing something stupid off the top of the cage potentially, but you know, he's an incredible athlete, so I don't know if I'd be too annoyed if he did that. Yeah, I think it's all looking good. I'm enjoying what Candice LeRae is doing at the moment as well. And remember, takeovers aren't just about, or Takeover War Games isn't just about the War Games matches. There's often other good matches on the show as well. I can see possibly a Balor title defense, maybe an Io Shirai title defense if she is not involved in that women's War Games match, excuse me, for example. Next up, 2 very surprising cameos on AEW last night. You may have seen that the Inner Circle, Jericho, MJF and the boys all went to Vegas and basically filmed a vignette there. There was a lot of jokes crammed in, a lot of different locations. There was a Hangover parody at one point, and 2 very surprising cameos as well. So first, once the Inner Circle were nicely drunk and everything, Santana and Ortiz were like, do you want to take things to the next level? We know somebody who's got the good stuff, the marijuana. And they opened this limo, and who should emerge but Conan? Former WCW, former Impact legend Conan obviously knows Santana and Ortiz from their days in LAX, and yeah, they got in the limo and it was implied that Conan got them really bloody high. So it was nice to see Conan, you know, or LA and all that. Great dude. Whoa, Conan, yeah, I'm all for it, you know. I remember the Filthy Animals back in the day, him and Rey Mysterio knocking about. Great lads. Where am I going with this? The other cameo, the second one, was, well, Jericho woke up the next day, couldn't remember anything. It's obviously a Hangover kind of rip-off. He hears a crying sound. Him and Santana are walking down this corridor in the hotel, and they're like, what's that crying sound? They open the door, and it's Swaggle, formerly known as Hornswoggle, of course, in WWE. And he's in a diaper, or a nappy, as us Brits say. And he's just crying, while dressed as a baby. What? So that was weird, especially because it was the payoff to the entire segment. That whole thing built up to them finding Hornswoggle dressed as, or Swoggle dressed as a baby. I don't know what that's about. Nice to see Swoggle, I guess. You know, still getting involved. Yeah. So those were the 2 cameos on AEW Dynamite last night. There were some other big moments as well. Check out the show if you haven't, or check out our news video earlier on today where we did talk about them. Another thing that happened on Dynamite last night was a very good opening match between the Young Bucks and a new tag team on the scene. They were 21 and 19 years old, man. They're very young. They're brothers. It's Top Flight. And Top Flight caused a lot of hype online, basically, because of their performance. Great stuff in their Dynamite debut. And it caused another sort of tag team legend, I guess, someone they openly admitted to having looked up to as they were growing up. It led to him tweeting something very interesting. I'm talking about Alex Shelley, one half of my boys, the Motor City Machine Guns. So Shelley tweeted last night after the match, I do want to put this out there, Chris Sabin and myself, the Motor City Machine Guns, versus the Young Bucks, versus Top Flight, 3 generations of tag team wrestling, Impact Wrestling or AEW, don't care. Now I'm sure the Impact, when they saw this, were maybe a bit like, oh, okay, maybe, you know, we'll have it on Impact, not on Dynamite. But no, it was a very interesting tweet. It would certainly be a dream match. I mean, the Machine Guns and the Bucks would be a great sort of reunion. The Bucks were, of course, in TNA. It didn't go too well for them as Generation Me. But I think in 2020, it would be a very interesting matchup. And then you throw Top Flight in there as well, representing the new generation. As Alex Shelley said in that tweet, I think it would be very exciting, and it would kind of set the indie world alight. Everyone loves a bit of flippy action, don't they? But it's not just flips. Top Flight looked really exciting and springy, but they had a solid grasp of tag team wrestling as well, certainly. The Bucks, of course, are now pretty much legends in the tag team game, and the Machine Guns are the real let me tell you, they're the real legends. They work together as a team so well. They're so fast and so smooth and pretty lads, so I love them. I just love them. And finally, moving swiftly on from my little daydream about MCMG, Let's talk about Zelina Vega, actually, former WWE superstar, formerly known, I guess, as Zelina Vega, because she was obviously released very recently, and then tweeted shortly before the announcement of her release, but probably after she found out about it, that she supports unionization. Obviously, Vince McMahon, WWE, staunchly anti-union, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this develops. Well, it was recently revealed from the Screen Actors Guild, actually. Powerful conversation, they said publicly. Powerful conversation with Thea Trinidad, or Zelina Vega, today. We support her and others as they work to protect and empower themselves. Now, obviously, the question of unionization in pro wrestling, it's often viewed by many as kind of an outdated thing in terms of like, the wrestling industry really should have better unionization by now. It's lagging behind so many other different industries. And the fact that Zelina Vega has gone out and managed to have a talk with the Screen Actors Guild, you know, part of Hollywood, like a massive, massive industry where unionization is further ahead than in pro wrestling, I think it's fair to say. That's huge. That's a massive deal. It could raise further awareness. We know that politician Andrew Yang also has been getting involved and tweeting about Vince McMahon a lot, and the fact that, you know, he sees it as very antiquated how WWE are dealing with things and just generally in the pro wrestling business. So it seems like awareness is spreading, certainly in North America anyway. Vega retweeted this from Screen Actors Guild and quote retweeted it and said, "Very powerful indeed. Thank you all for the pleasant conversation and insight." So we will certainly monitor the situation as it develops. It seems very much like Zelina Vega is going to be kind of maybe a bit of a figurehead for unionization in pro wrestling going forwards. We'll have to keep an eye out on various different things to see how that develops, but it could potentially be a huge step in the right direction for the rights of pro wrestlers. And that's it for today's news video. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. Stay safe out there, of course, as well, and stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.